Top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Updates and details as it pertains to the Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano rematch. Katie Taylor will reportedly earn a $6 million purse when she defends her undisputed super lightweight titles against Amanda Serrano on July 20th at the Arlington Stadium in Texas, live on Netflix. The undercard of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
$6 million.
Main event money for what is not the main event, accenting what I told you, that the people at MVP and Netflix were determined to bring this fight to their side of things.
They put the money up
To get Katie Taylor, one of Matchroom's star fighters, to cross over from Matchroom over to MVP, from DAZN
Yes.
over to Netflix. It was going to cost them a pretty penny, and we see what that penny was.
$6 million.
It's a lot of money. And Katie Taylor accepted it. The circumstances as they are, Amanda Serrano will be traveling north from 126 past 130, past 135
to 140.
She's been there before, at least once, but that was many years ago, back in 2018, when she fought Yamila Reynoso for what was the vacant WBO title at 140 pounds.
She ain't been back there since then.
She will be going back there very soon. And Amanda Serrano's power, I believe it will carry.
She will still pack a big punch.
Perhaps a little bigger than normal, since she won't be boiling down to 126 and leaving a piece of herself in the gym as a result of trying to make that weight, trying to make 126. She won't have to do that for this fight.
The advantages.
For Amanda, that she doesn't have to boil down to 126 for this one, so she may feel a bit more energized and a bit more invigorated up there at 140. That she is some years younger than Katie Taylor, and she's the house fighter this time.
This is not a Matchroom promotion.
MVP, who promotes Amanda Serrano, they are at the helm of promotion. So if you put your thinking caps on and say that this fight turns out to be just as close as the first fight was, where you could swing it either way. Well, the first time out, they swung it to Katie. This time, they might swing it to Amanda.
Because the first time out, Matchroom was at the helm of promotion, but this time, MVP is at the helm of promotion.
The first time, Katie Taylor was the house fighter. This time, young Amanda is the house fighter.
The advantages.
Those are the advantages for Amanda Serrano. What are the advantages for Katie? Well, that Katie has a little bit more time at 140 than Amanda does, that she might be a bit more acclimated to that weight than Amanda. You know, Katie, she's fought there more times than Amanda has. To my knowledge, Amanda Serrano has only fought at super lightweight once, and that was many years ago, whereas Katie, she did fight Christina Lenardatu there for what was Christina's WBO title. She beat her. She fought Chantel Kimron there 2 times.
That was in her last 2 fights.
One advantage that Katie Taylor has is that she is more acclimated to this weight than Amanda is.
What's another?
Another advantage is that this fight is for 10-2s and not 12-3s. Amanda Serrano wanted 12 3-minute rounds. When you think about it, 12 3-minute rounds would favor Amanda's more aggressive combination punching style than Katie's.
It would have.
But this fight ain't for 12 3s. It's for 10-2s, like the first one was. And that favors Katie Taylor a bit more than it favors Amanda. Amanda wanted that added time within the round, in the fight, because she came very close to knocking Katie Taylor out, but Katie was able to survive the round. The rounds starting and ending so quickly, they go by so fast. She was able to weather the storm long enough that the round ended and she was able to regroup.
It's an advantage.
That Katie Taylor is more acclimated to this weight than Amanda, and that this fight is for 10-2s and not 12-3s.
Who wins?
Well, the first time I edged the fight to Katie Taylor and the prediction stuck, she won a points decision. This time I'm edging the fight towards Amanda because she is a bit younger.
Their initial meeting was 2 years ago.
And Katie Taylor has been in more wars since then. The 2 wars with Chantel Cameron at 37 years old.
You do have to wonder how much more of this she can take.
The first fight was an all-out war, a shootout, and that was 2 years ago. 2 years later, does she have enough left for another one, another fight like that? That's the question. This could turn out to be a trilogy. You could see that. If Amanda wins, that's a tie. They're 1-1 with each other. They would need a tiebreaker afterwards.
So much for a Chantel Cameron trilogy.
Well, this one has more of a profile, and it pays better. What do you want me to say? We'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches.
Which one of them said that they would fight Devin Haney?
Out of those two, I mean, Teofimo said it.
Okay, so we're fighting. Now, what about the other guy? Did he say it?
Gervonta, in defense of him, he's not really a guy that says a lot
See,
of
you
words.
got a nigga with a camera defending you.
Nah,
so listen, listen.
no,
You done went into defense mode like a motherfucker. You use the word defense.
But if we're gonna be fair,
If we're going to be fair, Gervonta Davis had plenty of opportunities to fight Devin when Devin was still at 135. There were opportunities there. There was an opportunity afterwards, after he moved up to 140.
After he beat Prograis.
In between the time that he beat Regis Prograis and the time that they made the Garcia fight, in between that time, at any point in between there, Gervonta could have reached out, made an offer, and saw about making the fight, if we're going to be fair.
He didn't.
You don't have to take it from me. You can ask Bill. Bill's very active on his social media. You can ask Bill. You can ask Devin.
Ask him.
Get it from them. Get it from the horse's mouth. No effort was ever made by Team Davis to do a Devin Haney fight at either 135 or 140. So why the boxing scribes themselves, the members of the media?
Why don't they put no pressure on Gervonta to fight these people?
It's because they want the boxing community at large. They want me and you to look at Gervonta Davis through a certain lens without him having to earn it.
They want us to think he's the face of boxing.
When all the evidence is to the contrary, he's not the top earner in the sport. He's not even the second highest earning boxer in the sport. So how could he be the face of boxing?
Usually, the face of boxing is the guy that makes the most money. The reason he makes the most money is because the most people buy his fights.
Which is what makes him the face. That this is the fighter that consistently fights in the biggest fights. Now, in that arena, Gervonta Davis is not the highest earning boxer in the sport, or even the second highest earning boxer in the sport. That's between Canelo Alvarez and Anthony Joshua.
Then how is he the face?
He's not, and he never was. Just because you sold 1 million pay-per-view buys once, that doesn't make you king of the hill. That doesn't make you king shit. And you needed Ryan Garcia's help to do that. You didn't do 1 million or 500,000 any other time before that. And you were on pay-per-view 5 times. It's well documented.
You didn't do it before Ryan. You're not going to do it after Ryan. You're not selling 1 million or 500,000 with Frank Martin.
Gervonta Davis himself, he took to his social media and said, "Bro, I never in my life let one of these guys touch me. I was the one running around doing them kids bad in the amateurs, and the little chump that said that was under my wing. Look it up."
Here we go with the amateur stories.
Shakur S. Stevenson himself caught wind of these comments and responded by saying, "We can shoot the fade whenever you're ready, gangsta. I've been dying for the opportunity." And with Shakur, you know, it's the same thing with Devin as it is with Shakur. Gervonta hasn't made any offer to fight him either.
He's not going to.
But he'll argue with him on Twitter. He responded by asking Shakur, "Who have you fought?"
Who did Rolly Romero fight when you fought him? Who had Mario Barrios fought when you decided to move up there to 140 to fight him?
We can do this all day.
Who has Frank Martin fought?
Who has Frank Martin fought that you are now fighting him? Am I to believe that he's more well-known than Shakur? Okay, does he headline his own shows like Shakur?
No.
Is he a more accomplished fighter than Shakur?
No.
Has he been a champion in as many weights, across as many weight classes as Shakur?
No.
Shakur Stevenson said, 30-year-old prospect, hyped off them punching bags that he beat. If he was really like that, I would have been his first option, but he'd rather fight Cuz, who ducked me.
Quite right.
Frank Martin was supposed to have fought Shakur S. Stevenson last year for a career-high purse, 7 figures, where Frank Martin was not a 7-figure fighter, and he elected to pull out of that fight. If you liked your chances against Shakur, then you would have fought him.
Would have fought him, took his belt, then brought it to the table for a Davis fight, because it's not either or. In the amount of time it's taking,
You had plenty of time to fight Shakur last year and still make it to the Davis fight in the summer of this one, because Davis versus Martin isn't supposed to go down till early summer.
6 months into this year.
Let's not waste each other's time. Frank Martin pulled out of that Stevenson fight because he didn't think he would win. And if he doesn't win that fight, he doesn't make it to a Davis fight. So he decided to skip it altogether. It's as simple as that. And for that, Gervonta Davis is more interested in fighting him, and not Shakur. Shakur who has a belt. Shakur who has a profile.
Backwards.
Per usual, Gervonta Davis responded to Shakur's comment that he's a 30-year-old prospect. He responded to it by talking about money. He's got so much money. He's got more money than the guys at 135 and 140 and 147, but if it were really about money, you would have took up Turki al-Sheikh on his offer, because that's the best money in boxing right now.
He offered to pay for the Devin Haney fight, remember?
What do you expect us to believe? That you're gonna make more money fighting Frank Martin than you would have made boxing Devin Haney?
Get the fuck out of here.
Enough already. All these circular arguments you have to make whenever Gervonta Davis, the subject of Gervonta Davis and his opponents, is broached. It really is more of the same thing. Thus, it's no coincidence that boxing in America isn't what it used to be, and the audience is dwindling, because instead of fights, you get this.
Gervonta don't want to fight his contemporaries.
Some members of the media are perfectly okay with that instead of putting him in the hot seat, like the guy that Bill Haney was talking to. In Gervonta Davis's defense, you think he needs to be defended.
These decisions.
That he hasn't fought Devin Haney.
Well, Devin moved up to 140.
Okay, Shakur Stevenson's right there. He's right there at 135. What about him?
He'd rather fight Frank Martin.
Make of that what you will. In men's junior middleweight news, Puerto Rico's own unbeaten up-and-comer, Xander Zayas, will be returning to action June 8th, the same week as the Puerto Rican Day Parade in the tri-state area.
If you're from New York, you'll know, right around that time, the Puerto Rican Day Parade and the Puerto Rican Festival.
That's when it goes down, the ideal time to promote your unbeaten up-and-coming Puerto Rican fighter in the men's junior middleweight division, who will be opposite the ring Brazil's own former champion, Patrick Teixeira, in what is an acid test of sorts, a litmus test set to go down at the Hulu Theater.
My thoughts.
They finally got around to making this fight, and it was on the table. It was tabbed for a while, some weeks and some months. I can't remember originally what the holdup was.
Why did it take so long?
I'm not sure, but I remember hearing about them trying to make this fight many, many months ago. Now, young Xander Zayas, who's 21, to Patrick Teixeira, who's 33.
Gonna put his medal to the test.
Young Xander, who is an orthodox fighter, whereas Patrick, he's a southpaw. Young Xander sports a professional record of 18 wins with no losses, no draws.
12 knockouts.
To Patrick Teixeira, who sports a professional record of 34 wins with 4 losses, no draws.
25 knockouts.
Having only ever been knocked out once.
Once.
Once. In 38 professional contests. That was roughly 8 years ago in 2016, back when Curtis Stevens was still running around. You will remember Curtis Stevens.
It's one of the guys Gennady Golovkin knocked out. He knocked out Patrick Teixeira.
That was many, many years ago. Many years later, Patrick Teixeira is on a 3-fight winning streak, since having dropped a decision to Magomed Kurbanov in July of 2022. He's fought 3 times since then and won 3 times since then, all 3 by way of knockout.
This guy can punch.
Patrick Teixeira, a volume puncher, an aggressive guy, a southpaw, and a good litmus test, acid test, for young Xander Zayas. Given everything that's happening in the sport, you almost forget that Top Rank has this kid. They've got this ace in the hole. I believe that they can succeed with Xander Zayas where they failed with Edgar Berlanga. Yeah, Edgar was Puerto Rican like Xander's Puerto Rican, but Edgar never had Xander's ceiling.
Talent level.
I've already seen enough from Xander that I'm convinced he could be the next big Puerto Rican superstar. He just has to stay the course, stay in character, and beat this guy. I think that he can, but Patrick will test him.
Patrick, who was last in action in March of this year.
Where Xander was last in action in December of last year, opposite the ring, Jorge Fortea, who he knocked out in 5 rounds. In that way, both men have seen action within the last 12 months, and neither one of them has any ring rust they need to shake off.
It's a good fight.
Even though he's still learning and still developing, I feel like Xander is best described as a boxer-puncher. He can box a bit, he can punch a bit. He's got great physical dimensions for a junior middleweight.
He could easily fill out one day and campaign as a middleweight and perhaps cap off as a super middleweight.
Cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, he's only 21 years old, and he's got great physical dimensions for for a 154-pounder.
It's a deep division.
You're telling me. 154 just so happens to be where Patrick once reigned as WBO champion.
Till Brian Castano took his belt from him.
Better still, that's what Xander is going to be dealing with. He's going to be dealing with a former champion, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Why not?
Well, he was good enough to beat Carlos Adames years ago. You know Carlos Adames, the guy shaking things up there at middleweight. Yeah, Patrick beat him years ago.
Don't underestimate him.
Lots of possibilities for young Zandor if he can make it through this fight. This is a very deep division. When you think about who's there, Tim Tszyu, Israel Madrimov,
Sebastian Fundora,
Bakram Murtazaliev, very soon, Terence Crayford.
Serviceable fighters like Erickson Lubin and Magomed Kurbanov,
Brian Mendoza. Dangerous up-and-comers like Sergei Bohachuk of the Ukraine.
Slava Ukraina!
Very talented, unbeaten up-and-comer in Virgil Ortiz, who just so happens to be of Mexican descent in that age-old rivalry in the sport of boxing. Mexico versus Puerto Rico, what could be the next chapter in that rivalry with this young generation of fighters that are coming through. That is certainly a fight that can be built into something major. Xander Zayas versus Virgil Ortiz?
Not at 154 though.
No time soon. I would expect a fight like that to happen some years from now, 2 to 3, up there at middleweight, but not at junior middle, not right now.
Don't forget about Elijah Garcia, he's up there too.
He's of Mexican descent too. That's yet another fight with an unbeaten up-and-comer that's floating around that can be built. There are boundless possibilities out there for Xander Zayas, who feels like he doesn't get talked about enough based on all the other things that are happening at or around the weight or in the sport. But this kid has star potential. He could have star power.
Inching closer and closer to what could be his first world title shot.
I could see him winning a title at this weight, depending on whose title we're talking about. No, not Sebastian Fundora's, because he's over there at the PBC, and not Israel Madrimov's, because he's supposed to be fighting Terence Crawford, but Bakram Murtazaliev,
IBF champion.
He's promoted by Kathy Duba and managed by Egis Klimas. Egis Klimas, who we all know, does a lot of business with Bob Arum and Top Rank.
It could happen.
But now, he's got to take care of business with Patrick Teixeira, a former champion, and we'll see if he does in June.